So, friends, again I welcome you for the next lecture on Sir Philip Sidney. In our last lecture, we discussed that Philip Sidney is the first English critic of the Elizabethan age, 16th century. We discussed in the last lecture that Plato was the first critic in the entire history of criticism who raised some objections against the poets and poetry. And the first reply, or you can say the first defense of poetry, was written by Aristotle in his Poetics. But when you come to the 16th century, the second attack on poets and poetry was written by Stephen Gusen, who dedicated his book The School of Abuse to Sir Philip Sidney, and that is the reason why Sidney was compelled to write a defense which is known as the second defense of poetry. And Sidney wrote an apology for poetry, and in this apology he has discussed some of his important poetic theories. In the last lecture, we discussed that Sidney believed in the antiquity and universality of poetry. He said that poetry must be respected, the poets must be honored, because poetry is not a modern art. Poetry is an ancient art, and poetry in the ancient times, the Greek people called the poets as creators, and gods were also known as creators. So in Greek culture, the poets were given the equal status of God. Not only this, if you see the Roman culture, Roman ancient culture, the Roman people also called the poets as Vates. And Vates means the foreseers. Vates means the prophets. And prophets means those who are quite close to God. So the poets were respected in Roman culture and in Greek culture. And that's why, Sidney said that we must salute the poets, we must worship poetry. Furthermore, Sidney also said that the job of the poet in comparison to God is much higher. He said that the world is brazen, but the poets only deliver golden. This world is made of brass, but the poets deliver the world which is a golden world. So he means to say that poets are the creators, as the gods are the creators, poets are the creators who create the world in their world of poetry, which is more beautiful than this real world. Next thing we discussed was the definition of poetry given by Sir Philip Sidney. Sidney said that poetry, therefore, is an art of imitation, a speaking picture with this end to teach and delight. According to him, every poetry is an imitation, but a kind of vitality, a kind of liveliness must be there in poetry. And that's why he says that a true poetry is always a speaking picture. Regarding the function of poetry, Sidney believes that the basic function of poetry is to teach and delight. It seems that Sidney doesn't want to enter into any arguments or any debates, because he here combines both Plato and Aristotle. Plato, a moralist, believed that the primary function of true poetry is to teach, and Aristotle believed that the function of poetry is to delight, is to please. And Sidney combines these both, and he says that the function of poetry is both to teach and delight. Next, Sidney also compares poetry with philosophy and history. Sidney says that poetry is one step ahead of history and philosophy, because history talks about what is or what was, and philosophy talks about what should be. A philosopher teaches us how our life should be, and a historian talks about what the life exactly was. But it is only the poetry which is the combination of both history and philosophy. Because poetry not only presents what is or was in one particular society, that means poetry not only gives the realistic picture of the society, but at the same time, poetry also teaches us something. Knowingly or unknowingly, we learn so many lessons from true poetry. Now we talk about the defense of poetry as done by Sidney. Stephen Gusen wrote a book called The School of Abuse, and he dedicated this book to Sir Philip Sidney. And in this book, Stephen Gusen, has laid down three main charges against the poets and poetry. He said that poetry is the most unprofitable activity. Number one. I repeat it again. He said that the poetry is the most unprofitable activity. Second thing he said is that poetry is a nurse of abuse. Okay? Poetry is a nurse of abuse. Or in other words, you can say poetry abuses man's wit. Wit means our intelligence, our thinking power. First, he said the poetry is the most unprofitable activity. And second, he said that poetry abuses man's wit. And third, he said that poets are liars. Now, Sidney replies these charges in his own manner. And he says that poetry is not the unprofitable activity, because the world's value, the knowledge about the values of mankind, this knowledge is served by poetry since time immemorial. Right from the ancient times, poetry has been doing this nice job to the society. Poetry helps the man become better human beings, because poetry teaches some moral lessons to the society. And that's why poetry is not an unprofitable activity. Second charge laid down by Stephen Gusen was that poetry abuses man's intelligence, man's wit, our thinking power. He said that poetry does not abuse man's wit. On the contrary, man's wit abuses poetry. How? Gusen had a problem with poetry because Gusen thought that poetry of our times means I am talking about 16th century. Gusen said that poetry of our times is immoral poetry, and that's why it abuses our mind, it abuses our intelligence. But Sidney rightly replied and said that poetry itself is not abusive. It is the poets, abusive poets, who are writing abusive poetry, and that abusive poetry abuses man's wit. So, in short, what Sidney wanted to say was that poetry itself is pure, it is a pure art, it is a moral art. But there are some poets who are writing some abusive or immoral poetry. So, the abusive mind of the poets, they abuse the poetry. Poetry does not abuse the people. So, this is how he replies the second charge laid down by Stephen Gusen. Third thing is that, third charge by Stephen Gusen was that the poets are liars. Poetry is based on falsehood. Poetry does not talk about the truth. But no, Sidney says that poets are not liars. Poetry is not based on falsehood. Poetry, because you tell a lie only when you affirm something. Poetry does not affirm anything. It is the history which affirms something, and that's why history may tell a lie, but poetry never tells a lie. Why? Because poetry shows us something, and poetry or the poets do not compel the people, compel the readers to follow that. Poetry, the poet shows the life as he observes. Now it is up to the readers how to take it. And the poet says, if you like it, you adopt it. And if you don't like it, you leave it. So the poets do not affirm anything in poetry. And that's why when somebody does not say anything with affirmation, that can never be a lie. So this is how, he replies the third charge against the poets and poetry. Regarding the review of literature, because in my previous lecture on Sidney, I said that, Apology for Poetry by Sidney can be divided into three sections. First is the commendation of the dignity of poetry. Second is the defense of poetry. And third is the review of contemporary poetry and drama. So, regarding this third section, I would like to say that during the time of Sidney, poetry found its hard times in England. Sidney believed that English poets had neglected the three basic principles of writing poetry. Here, Sidney talks about the three important principles of poetry. And these three important principles are art, imitation, and practice. He said that poetry must be a pure art, and he also believed that the poets must know how to imitate perfectly, and true poet or true poetry needs much practice. So he gives these three principles to the poets. I repeat them again. He gives the three principles: art, imitation, and practice. Regarding Sidney's views on tragedy, he says that the present tragedies, present means we are talking about his times, 16th century tragedies. He said that the present tragedies, they do not follow the three unities of time, place, and action. He believed that a tragedy or a comedy is complete only when the tragedy writer follows these three unities of time, place, and action. So, considering this idea of Sidney, we may say that Sidney is a classical critic. Sidney believed in classicism. Why? Because Sidney gives some norms, strict norms to write tragedy, to write comedy. He believed that these norms must be followed properly by every tragedy writer. Regarding his views on comedy, Sidney believed that the primary function of any comedy is to delight the reader. Now, the question is, this delight comes from where? Then the answer is, delight comes from humor. There is a difference between laughter and humor. He said that the laughter should be innocent laughter. A kind of element of innocence must be there in that humor and laughter which is presented in comedy. In short, Sidney wants to say that the comedy must not harm or abuse anybody in the society. The comedy must create laughter or humor, but that must be a gentle laughter, gentle humor, innocent laughter, and innocent humor. So, this is what Sidney believed about the comedy and tragedy which was written during his times. At the end, we can say that Sidney was a critic who believed in classicism. You can call him a classical critic. Why? Because he talks about the three unities. He also he admires the Italian writers of Renaissance like Dante, like Boccaccio and Petrarch. Why? Because they followed these three principles of poetry: art, imitation, and practice. Okay? All his pronouncements have their basis either on Plato or Aristotle or Horace also. As I told you earlier, Sidney takes his ideas from Plato and Aristotle as far as the function of poetry is concerned. When he talks about the observance of the three unities of time, place, and action, he seems to be a classical critic because he believed in classicism. Sidney also had a problem with the mingling of tragedy and comedy because during the Elizabethan age, tragicomedies were written by some of the important writers like William Shakespeare. And Sidney believed that if a dramatist wants to write a play, it should either be a complete tragedy or be a complete comedy. The mixture of tragedy and comedy is not allowed by Sir Philip Sidney. So, here we come to the end of this lecture. If you have any doubts or queries, feel free to ask the questions. Thank you.